We're great. Well, I want to welcome everyone. We're going to start in just about a minute. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Maggie Schuster. Okay, well, it's 10 o'clock. Want to welcome everyone today to the Know Before You Fly Your Drone workshop. And we've got a special treat today with the World Games that are going on in Birmingham right now. Just before, I want to let you know that this program is through the North Texas Central Council of Governments, the UAS Safety and Integration Committee. And this is our 21st, so I'm really excited. It seems with all the issues that we had in the beginning with the pandemic and we were going to meet live, now we're meeting virtual. I actually love the virtual because we can do programs like we're doing today. And that is here at the World Games 2022 with Sam Scully. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being my co-host today, Sammy. And there's Ronzi, one of the referees. So Sam, let's start off and talk a little bit about who you are and how you got involved with specifically the drone soccer, but how you got to the world.
Good morning again, or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam. I'm from Los Angeles, California. And I basically got involved with, well, first, before I got involved with drone soccer, met a wonderful organization called Women in Drones and got bit by the drone bug. And ever since then, I decided to get my 107 passed. And then since then, I decided to go towards the educational market because my background is technology, staffing, and training. And so when I heard about drone soccer, I felt like it would be a natural fit to be involved because I was going to be able to spread the word about STEM, science, technology, education, aviation, and mathematics. And also, when I saw the presentation, actually on your group, Maggie, I think it was last August, I got bit by the drone bug again and just decided, hey, why don't we bring it to California? And
yeah, actually, Kyle Sanders was on, I think it was last July. I think we had it in drone competitions. But really, what's unique about drone soccer is that it's not only a STEM, but it's also actually a competition where, you know, teams come together and work together to win the match or whatever. Well, I really appreciate it. And I am thankful for Women in Drones because they brought you and I together. So thank you so much again. So I was hoping that you tell a little bit about where you are and, you know, what's going on with the World Games. What is the World Games all about?
Well, first, let me introduce basically what we're doing here now is you have the World Games, and of course you have the Olympic Committee this year, correct?
Yes.
And so my job here is I've been watching the demos and they're getting ready for the qualifying today. Was to basically kind of introduce, find out about some of the students and bring some officials on. But my understanding of the World Games is that it's going to allow us to first feature air sports. And then my co-partner here, Ronzi, he can tell you a little bit more about it. Ronzi, you want to introduce yourself?
Ron, if you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you're doing there today and how you got involved with drone soccer.
So good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. My name is Ronzi Lewis. I'm from Colorado Springs. I'm the lead coach for Drone Soccer US. I'm the lead referee for Drone Soccer US. I'm kind of the fun police. You know, I get to enforce the rules and the regulations for drone soccer play. We're here at the World Games as an exhibition sport. So this is kind of our first time to, you know, get on a larger stage to, you know, introduce the world to drone soccer and how it's played and what it looks like.
So at this point, tell us a little bit, and maybe Sam, you can, you know, I can show one of the pictures here. Tell us a little bit about specifically the World Game is kind of like an audition, correct? For sports that would be considered to actually compete in the Olympics, which is really a big deal. It really is. And it you know, with the two programs that are in there, Canopy Piloting and Drone Racing, those are actually there this week and they're actually competing, correct?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay, and this is, you know, different teams, over 100 countries are there. Actually, there's actually other activities going on. In other words, outside the air sports is what we're going to call it. There's several other sports that are demonstrating and competing today. But again, I kind of want to pull back. We're focusing on the air sports, and that is the canopy piloting and the drone racing. And then, as you said, Ronzi, this is kind of like a exposition of did I say that right? Exhibit of the drone soccer, so people can first of all be introduced to it and why it would be so important to have it included in the actual World Games next year.
Yes, yes. This is like I said, this is our chance to show the world what drone soccer is, and how much of an exciting sport it is.
So I'm looking at the ring behind you guys. Can you kind of explain what exactly this is? And you're outside, I see, and there's actually a netting. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Yes. So we're actually inside of a drone soccer arena. Behind us, you can see the circle. That's the goal that the pilots are trying to fly their drone ball through. This is similar to what you see in a drone race, but they're all manually controlled. They're built by the pilots. They're tuned by the pilots. They're also repaired by the pilots, which is a super important aspect of the game. Not only do you just get to fly, but between matches, you do have to maybe replace a prop, or maybe you've got some kind of issue that you have to figure out how to fix it. And we give them time limits in between matches to repair or replace their drone balls.
So with the drone racing, I understand there's about 15 teams that are there today actually competing the drone racing. Is it later today, or have they already started competing?
So we're scheduled to start in about an hour and a half. At 11:30. We'll start qualifying, and it should be really exciting. It's a really great course. Lots of turns, lots of dives, lots of twists and turns.
I know it's one of the fastest sports. I can't keep up with it, especially now that PVV is so accessible to
Yes.
buying a drone off the shelf and actually going out there. And that's first person visual, just so everyone knows. I don't like to use acronyms and not tell you what it means. So that's super exciting. Now with the drone soccer, the group of children or kids there, young pilots, let's call them that. The young pilots. How many teams?
They are 100% pilots. They are
okay. Pilots. I won't even say young pilots. Pilots. So, can you tell us about the age that are going to be there today doing the actual exhibit?
So we go 13 and up. Primarily at this tournament, it's going to be 13 to 16-year-olds that'll be flying. But it is available for adults. So if you want to get started as an adult, I'm really willing to play with some other adults.
Yes, I know. Actually, drone soccer, it could be a great team building event for like corporations because there is a lot of team building in this. And maybe Sam, you can touch a little bit about this team building and why it's different from drone racing, meaning the drone racing is usually one individual. And with the drone soccer, it's actually a team. It's imperative that these pilots work together, correct?
Yes, exactly. Because you have one that is the striker, one that is with the crusher,
A sweeper.
And then, of course, you have somebody that's going to be watching the batteries. You have someone that's going to be doing help with the scoring. And then there's another important role.
We've got goalies, and there are crushers.
I think it's a sweeper.
Yeah, a sweeper. So we can have teams up to five players, and each one takes a role, and they're trying to work together to score, to fly this through that, and score points.
I always say it reminds me of Quidditch from Harry Potter. I think it's so
Exactly.
great. The striker is the one that actually has to fly their drone through the hoop there, or through the circle. And then there's obviously the goalies defending that goal. And then you've got the rest, if that's two, then you've got three of them that are actually defense, basically. And that's actually engaging. So all in all, there are 10 drones in that cage at one time for a match. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. It's actually a full contact sport. With a normal drone without the ball on it, you've got the propellers spinning around, and they'll get, if you touch anything, you're falling out of the sky. But with these, they're designed to contact each other and still maintain flight.
Well, that's
And Maggie,
pretty-
I'm gonna see if I can bring up a video real quickly.
Yeah,
If you allow
absolutely.
me. Hold on.
So we're bringing, what video are you going to be bringing up?
Actually, one where we have the students engaged in playing.
Oh, yeah, so that we can
If I
actually,
can bring that one up.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there are about 15 teams. Is that Ronzi, while she's getting that ready, is there about 15 teams that are there today?
Here for drone soccer, we've got 6 teams, from as far away as Colorado and Illinois.
Tell us a little bit about, from what I understand, this is a demonstration, so they're not actually competing. So there are other teams. I know that drone soccer itself. Oh, there we go. Seeing that, I'm assuming that's one of the pilots.
Yes, Michaela, who won't be with us today.
Okay.
All right.
Michaela is actually one of our, she's on the championship team, the nationwide championship team. They're from Colorado, and she's a glider, certified glider pilot as well, and she's working on her private pilot's license.
Well, we
At
love
16.
that, especially as a girl, a young girl coming up into aviation. So important. So I saw the picture of her. Did you have any other?
Yes,
videos?
it's only allowed me to do like one at a time, but I'm just try one more here. Let's see.
Okay.
So this is an image of our pilots just before the match starts. All the drones are laid out in front of them, and as soon as I call, ready, set, go, everybody goes, and that's game on.
And that's one side of the team. There's actually another side, because it's imagine this like a batting cage. You've got one team on one side, one team on the other. They're defending their goal. So that makes it. There we go. There's another picture of them actually flying the drone.
Of actual gameplay. We've got one on the ground that may or may not be functional. You as a pilot, you have to balance aggressiveness with control, and if you damage your drone ball during gameplay, you're out until time runs out.
One of the questions Ernest Huffman had to say, he's the lead aviation director here at the COG. He says, how long have they both been involved in drone soccer? So tell us a little bit, because this is a fairly new, this is a new sport. And I know that starting January, it was really officially on, where David Roberts and Kyle Sanders, who are the directors of actually putting together these leagues in the US. But Ronzi, you were in drone racing first, weren't you? Your interest, and then you moved to drone soccer, is that correct?
Actually, I am not fast enough to be a drone racer. I like to fly freestyle, dips and dives and that sort of thing. But Kyle Sanders, he knew that I was into drones. He and I have been friends for a while, and he came up with drone soccer. It was about 3 years ago, and I've been with them since the beginning.
That's fabulous. And Sam, tell me a little bit about your involvement and how you've created a league in Hollywood, California.
Well, I got involved just recently this past April. Once from just basically hearing about it again through our network of Women in Drones and part of your team here. And I decided to contact them as well, because we don't have it in California. So I want to reach the kids that are in Inglewood, the kids that are in Hollywood, and basically kids that are all over. And so I reached out, built a team. Maggie's on my team. Iman's on my team. Sheila is on my team out of New York. And Donna August is on my team out of San Diego. And so we basically look forward to working together to spread the word throughout the various states, and specifically California. So Maggie, I have a lot of students here who are anxious to get on the call to express how long they've been involved. So let me know when you're ready for those
Oh,
students.
that'd be great. The only other question Ernest had is, do you have to be a 107 pilot to be on the leagues, the soccer leagues?
Yeah, well, I know for the soccer league, you do have to have at least one person, and I am, but I think mostly everybody on my team is 107. Yes, you are. Donna is, because Donna just recently got hers back last August,
Mhm.
and Sheila is as well. But we
to
only need one.
Yeah, but to clarify, usually the students, first of all, you have to be 16 to even get your 107. So,
Yes.
you know, as a backup, I know that drone soccer requires I'm going to call them students for now. I know they're pilots, but students, so we're not confusing it. They have to pass their trust test, which is given by the FAA. It's general responsibilities, air safety, and so forth. But I think that that's really key, especially when you're introducing a student to drones themselves. This is a responsibility. This is not a toy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that no matter what, even if you're flying inside, you need to be careful. You need to be aware of your surroundings and so forth. But I love the idea of the actual flying only in the cage, because you have a little bit more of a controlled space. So if something does go awry or they're just learning to fly, it's still under the control, because the students, the pilots, are not in the cage. They're outside the cage, which is another
Yes.
great safety. But Ronzi, are you in the cage? Are you
Um,
outside?
You know, it depends. If we're doing a fun game where everybody's just kind of learning and experimenting, I'll help out from inside. But during normal tournament play, I won't be inside.
So Ernest was asking, on average, are the pilots interested in a career in aviation? Is that promoted as a part of the program? In other words, what he's trying to say is, this is an introduction to aviation for a lot of the students.
Yes.
You know, and with doing so, you've seen this in 3 years. You've seen the concept, and now it's actually coming reality. There's actually some teams at this point in the United States, majority in Colorado right now, just because that's where it initiated. This is, you know, the ground zero is what I call it. But tell us a little bit about what you've seen in regards to the growth of the interest in aviation itself, you know, by being involved in drone soccer.
So the young lady that we showed a picture of earlier, Michaela, she's hoping to go to the Air Force Academy, and you know, that hopefully will start her career in aviation. We've got a few folks that have expressed interest in flying for a living. So you know, time will tell. We'll see.
Well, one thing that I've seen already, just by, you know, talking about this since last July, it's not just aviation. It could be coding, it could be computers, it could be logistics. You know, in the future, with all the new unmanned, uncrewed aerial systems that we're going to see, in other words, drones in the sky, you know, we're going to have somebody programming it or directing it. Like when we start seeing beyond visual line of sight, and we start seeing these drones actually like taxis picking people up or picking up cargo, we're going to need somebody in that and understanding how that system works. Teamwork, you know, no matter what, the skills that they're going to be picking up with drone soccer, like teamwork, working with the team, how imperative that is to work with the team and problem solve together. I mean, they can take that anywhere, correct?
Yes.
Do you want? Okay.
No,
Well,
through
go ahead. No, go ahead. What did you say?
through my time with drones and drone soccer, you know, there are a lot of disciplines that go along with this sport. You know, there's troubleshooting, there's electronics, there's computer work, there's teamwork, there's people management. The list is really long, very, very long.
Yeah, well, I think it's a fantastic program. So Sam, if you'll bring on, thank you so much, Ronzi, for your time, and look forward to seeing you live in Colorado, by the way. Sam, so you've got some students and you've got some
Yeah, I
parents.
have about seven of them waiting, and 2 of them might be leaving.
Okay.
So I need to kind of get them in.
Yeah, please do. I would love
Okay.
to. So just so you guys know, she's bringing the students right now. So you can actually, if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat because I'll be happy to answer those questions. But we've actually had students that are going to come on, and most of them I think are in Colorado, just because again, that was kind of like the birthplace of the U.S. drone soccer leagues. But I really wanted you to kind of hear what the kids have to say, how they heard about drone soccer and how it's enriched their lives. So I'm really excited about that. So she'll be here probably any minute now. It's like herding cats sometimes. As you can see, you guys, this is actually a live footage of how they set that up. Hi, welcome. How are you? So Sam, go ahead and do the intro, please.
Okay, I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself because I don't want to mess up her name. So let's tell the audience your name. This is Maggie, and we have about 10 other people on the call. And this is Mom. Mom, you can come around.
Yeah, we would love to see the parents because
so go right ahead and we want to speak a lot now.
Hello, I'm Majaya Todd Green. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm a rising ninth grader at Hoover High School.
And so you are there in Birmingham, actually. So there's actually a team. How many teams are in the Alabama, state of Alabama? Do you know by any chance how many teams that you get to practice with?
We practice with one team so far, but there's 4 teams in the state of Alabama.
Oh, that's great. Just so you know, I mean, for teams, that means like, let's say, what school are you going to right now?
Hoover High School.
Hoover High School. So in Hoover, there's one team there. And then you're competing with other high schools. Is that correct? Hi, Mom. Welcome. Hi. I'm Maggie, just so you know. I was asking your daughter about, the teams there in Alabama. We're hoping to have more teams in each state. So the more teams we have, the more the kids can compete and actually learn. So I just wanted to know just really quick, how you got introduced to drone soccer. Was it your teacher? Was it your parent? Was it, just how did you get involved in drone soccer?
I got involved in drone soccer because my mom signed me up for it.
Yay, Mom. So can I speak with your mom for a second? What's your first name?
My name is Demetrius.
Demetrius. So Demetrius, how did you kind of fall on top, because sometimes it's just brand new. U.S. drone soccer is so brand new. How did you find it? And what was it that intrigued you enough to engage your daughter in it?
Well, it was a flyer going around the city, saying that they were doing I was thinking it was for enrichment.
Mm-hmm.
Because they said they were doing math and science, technology, coding, and those are things that she likes to do. So I signed her up for it, and when they did the first Zoom call, that was when we found out it was actually for drone soccer.
That's amazing.
But we thought it was for enrichment. She's an honor student at Bumpus Middle School. She's been an honor student ever since kindergarten. Mostly make all A's, so it's something that she's interested in, the coding and the technology, the STEM, just all of it.
That's so fantastic. Number one, it's not typical to have a young girl interested in STEM or STEAM. So just the fact that she's already showed interest, she's already excelled in it. With this drone soccer, have you learned anything, or is there something that you were just like the aha moment that this was super cool and you love being a part of it?
That moment for me was when during the first practice, when we got to the first practice, and they showed us the drones and we actually started flying them, and I thought that it was really, really cool and that I wanted to engage in it and stay there.
So I heard the really, really cool. I think drone soccer is really, really cool. But was there something that you've learned that you believe was really essential to be involved in drone soccer? Was there something, whether it be, building the drone or learning how to fly it or the actual game itself? What was it that, that you really had no idea how much you were going to learn from it, but that you have?
I just really like the game itself, and I think it helped me really learn and help me more in just
overall.
Do you think that you're going to?
So I'm sorry, Maggie. Go on.
Do you think you'll go into an aviation? That was one of the Ernest's questions today. Do you think this is kind of like a prelude to getting into the aviation industry, or what direction do you want to go with it?
I think I do want to go the aviation route. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think that's fantastic. Well, I would love to hear from other students. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's really essential to hear it from the words of the actual young pilots today of how engaging it is. And I'm so glad you're a part of it. Are you going to be at the tournament in Colorado Springs at the end of July?
Yeah, probably, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be there. I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I know that Sammy's bringing in another student, so let's go ahead, and I think we have another 30 minutes. So, hi,
All right,
Sam.
so, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Maggie
Hi,
is hot out here. We got everybody. Nate, this is Nate. Nate,
Hi,
introduce
Nate.
what city you're from, what state you're from. And this is Maggie, and we have about 10 other people in the call from all over the United States.
Okay. I'm Nate, and I'm with the Colorado All Stars, and we come from Colorado. Born and raised there.
So, Nate, what grade are you in? You're in high school, correct?
Yeah, I'm in the 11th grade.
The 11th grade. And so how were you introduced to the drone soccer? I know that you have a fantastic teacher there, but can you tell us a little bit about it? About how you got involved in with the high school?
Yeah. I got into it by the drone soccer summer camps. By our other teammate, Michaela, and we were the very first week 1 summer camps. We were the test dummies. So some things
Test
went wrong.
pilots.
Test pilots. So it didn't all go smoothly, but it all worked out in the end. And
so you say that it was a drone soccer summer course or summer camp. Have you always been interested in flying drones or coding in STEM? I mean, or are you just really competitive and you just wanted to get into a competitive sport?
Yeah, I've always been a bit competitive, but I've flown the DJI drones and stuff in the past, and I heard drone soccer, so I'm like, competitive drones, mix them together, and
it's a great, it makes a great recipe, doesn't it? So I think, yeah. And so how many are in your team that are going to be competing today? And I say competing, I know it's a demonstration, but you're still going to be competing against other teams. So how many on your team?
There's 5 other pilots and I.
And speaking of pilots, how many girls versus how many boys are on your team?
So far, Michaela is the only girl on our team that can make it, unfortunately, but we hope to get more girls into the sport.
I think it would help for sure. And at this point, obviously, I'm going to be seeing you in Colorado Springs on July 30th. How many teams, do you know how many teams are going to be there to compete? Because this is really the official first tournament, correct?
Not really. We had the national drone soccer national games a couple of months ago.
Was that in New York?
That was in Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
So it's not the first tournament, but it's like the first real state games, like Rocky Mountain State Games tournament.
I see. So one other question, and then we'll let you go.
And I want to bring his father on too.
Absolutely. Nate, can you tell me, Nate, what is it, if you were talking to other kids, or you were talking to the parents, or you were even talking to the teachers, say, hey, this is a great program, what would you say, Nate? What would you say to them?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Sure. No. If you were speaking to students or the teachers or even the parents at this point of why it would be such a great program to be involved in, what would you tell them? How would you, let's say you're a salesman, okay? You're a salesman right now, Nate. What would you say to us to say, hey, tell us about this drone soccer? Why would I be interested? Can you tell me why?
Yeah, it's absolutely great because you're learning a lot about drones and programming and building and sports and all of it combined, but it's fun, so you don't realize you're learning. So
Yeah.
now I have a bunch of great skills, and I didn't even realize it.
It's kind of sneaky, isn't it? You know, hey, let's have fun, but then you're learning something too. And I see your dad just joined you. Welcome. Hi, I'm Maggie. What is your name?
Hi, my name is Eric. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Eric. So Eric, was it Nate that brought up the idea that he wanted to go to this summer camp with the, drone soccer, or was it something that you found?
It's funny. It's actually his mom, Linda, found it. She found it through a TV commercial, I believe, about a drone soccer camp right before last summer, and just asked him if it was something that he would be interested in trying, and yeah, he jumped on it. So, or wasn't it?
So Nate, you didn't back up and say, Mom, I don't want to do this, or was it something that, hey, did she show you a video of it so you could actually see what it was about? I mean, how did she convince you this was going to be super cool to do?
Yeah, she saw it on the news and she recorded it. So I got to see the news recording of it, and I thought it looks cool, and I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So Eric, tell us a little bit about what you've seen, the transformation of Nate getting involved in this sport. What have you seen your son get out of this?
I have seen more growth in the past year. It's been absolutely amazing to watch. It's hard to describe watching your children as they grow, to find something that just feels so natural to them and is such a niche. I'm super excited for Nate's future and his career. He's going to go really far with this, I think. And we consider ourselves very grateful and blessed to have had this opportunity.
And great. Eric, as a parent, I'm sure that every parent, especially with high school and how kids are so involved, since we had to been isolated, you see a lot of the kids on their computers playing computer games, right? And so that requires them to sit in a chair and turn on their computer. With this, it's a little different. With this, they actually physically have to go where they're doing the instructions, where they're working on their strategies and so forth. And even though it's not a exertion of energy, they still have to put their mind, their hand coordination into play. So it's a lot different. And I just wanted to emphasize that if you've got anything else to add, but I see that being a real essential when we're engaging these young pilots.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much more that goes into it, way more than I even understand or would ever understand. But you're right, as far as the hand-eye coordination, and it's really hard to describe. I forget what else I was just going to say about it, but yeah, it's been amazing.
One of the things Kyle Sanders, and again, he's one of the leads, the directors of the organization UAS Drone Soccer, because there's drone soccer everywhere. It started in Korea, from what I understand, several years ago, and now it's Kyle and David Roberts actually brought the sport here in the U.S. But one of the things I heard, and it might be with your group, Nate, your team, is that they actually saw teams from different high schools or different programs. It doesn't have to just be high schools, by the way. It could be a 4-H club. It could be, Girl Scouts. It could be just the YMCA in your area. So it's not limited to that. But the story I heard, and I think it was very inspiring, is that there was a younger team, a team that had not only younger in age, but also younger in experience. They actually saw that the team that they were competing with, they actually had some of the members, some of the younger pilots going over to the other side because they were having problems with coding or turning on their light or something, and they were actually troubleshooting with the other team. Nate, was that your team, or did you observe that?
Yeah, we were the ones helping them
that's awesome,
build and program and stuff. Just a week ago, I helped teach a drone soccer camp. So
that's really amazing story, because again, I think in a year or two, or maybe 10 years from now, we're really going to see the results of having these young youth pilots engaging in this sport. and then seeing how that they grow. I would love to follow you guys and continue following you and seeing exactly how you land in whether it be the aviation or programming. And I just went to a PX4 summit, which was really exciting because for me, I'm a pilot. I just turn on that drone and that's it. To understand it and see, where that PX4 and the modules will actually, indicate how it's going to fly. That's amazing. That opens up a whole new world. Thank you so much for the both of you. I really appreciate it. Nate, good luck in competing today. I hope you do well. I'm sure you will. Thank you so much. Hey, Sam, do you have some more?
Really quick, I was just going to say, you guys
Yeah.
just reminded me that really is what I was going to say, is that it's about the relationships too. Like what Nate just said about teaching others and being there to help troubleshoot and everything, and the relationships, with his team members and everybody. It's been great to see. It really has positively affected every area of his life.
That's great to hear. Thanks again for your time and have fun today, Nate. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay,
day.
thank you. You too. It's so sunny there. It looks fantastic.
I'm coming, Maggie.
Yeah, no worries. I was just saying that. Look at the blue skies behind there. It looks fantastic. Do you have any other students or any?
Yes. I do have some more students.
Great. That's fantastic.
Okay.
Who's coming next? Hi. Hi. What is your
Alden,
name?
right?
Joe.
Joe. Yeah, this is Alden. This is Joe. Joe, let's introduce. This is Maggie. And
Hi, Joe.
what I'd like for you to do is introduce yourself, your team, and talk about how you got involved with drone soccer.
Hi, my name is Joe Miller, part Team Colorado for the World Games here, and then the Sky Blazers back at home. I got involved in drone soccer. I saw a ad on the news for a summer camp at Wings Over the Rockies. I thought that seemed like a good way to fill my time during the summer, and I got there and I fell in love with the sport, playing in for the week, and then I kept going back for the practices up until the Rocky Mountain State Games.
So Joe, tell us a little bit about your t-shirt. What is that?
One of our players designed us a nice drone soccer Colorado flag logo. So it's our Team Colorado shirt. So it says Team Colorado, our shirt, the World Games, and we have our names on the back.
Oh, let's see. Oh, that's great. I tell you that each team
And number.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. So each team, how many members or young pilots are on your team? Because I know that there's 5 that are actually engaging, but how many are actually on your team, your Colorado team?
So Team Colorado, we brought 6 flyers. So we have about 1 sub, which is very nice to have a sub. And then back at home, we have 5 total. So we have no bench players.
So Joe, how many girls and how many boys?
There's 5 boys here, 1 girl, and then 4 boys at home, 1 girl.
Well, I'm glad to see that the girls are involved. Can you tell us just real quickly, I was kind of putting Nate on the spot. If you were a salesman and you wanted to sell me to be involved in drone soccer, what would you say?
My sales pitch for drone soccer is an exciting new esport that it's high-paced action contained in a small cage, accessible to watch and play.
I love it. That's so fantastic. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it. We're gonna bring a couple more students.
Maggie, his
Yes.
dad also is going to come on and say a few words, Mr. Miller.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Joe. That's fantastic. Hey, Joe, just real quick, are you a striker or are you a goalie? What are you?
So I am the primary striker for Team Colorado.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I can call you Harry Potter for short, right? That's fantastic. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. So
Thank
can
you.
you do, my name is Maggie, and I just wanted you to do a quick intro.
Okay, my name is Merlin Miller. I am the father of Joe Miller. We're here in Birmingham at the World Drone Soccer Games, enjoying ourselves.
I know, like 4 years ago, you probably never imagined you would be doing this. And here you are in Birmingham, having your son demonstrate this amazing new sport, drone soccer. So was it Joe going to you and saying, hey, Dad, I just saw this on TV. I really want to do this. I mean, how did it transpire?
Well, actually, it was my wife Kathy who got him into it. She was looking for some activities to keep him busy during summer, and besides working, so she's the one that found it and asked Joe, "It looks like fun. Would you like to do this?" Joe had been experimenting with drones for the last 4 or 5 years already, and so it seemed like a natural.
That's fantastic. And what have you seen come out of Joe being involved in drone soccer? What have you seen, the qualities or the, just the learning curve that you've seen Joe demonstrate since he's been involved?
So he's been doing this for a year now because of last year's summer camp. But they had some Rocky Mountain State games about a month after in Colorado Springs, and it was good, but the learning curve which they've demonstrated since then has been tremendous. But they basically don't have much adult supervision. Their team is self-directed by the kids, and it's the one thing that they practice every Saturday for a couple hours in the afternoon, and it's the one thing that we haven't told Joe. I had to say, Joe, you need to be here at this time. You need to get out of bed. You need to get ready. You need to go. It's the one thing that he's been self-directed on, and he made sure that he was there on time.
As a mother, I can appreciate that. Joe, I have one more question for you, Joe.
Yes.
Where do you see yourself in about 5 years? Will you still be flying, or what do you see it?
I see myself in about 5 years. I'm hoping to be graduating college with some sort of business degree and hopefully some emphasis on unmanned aircrafts. I'm looking at majors in that. So I'm hoping to have a business degree and then have a degree in drone flying or unmanned aircrafts.
Well, I'm sure you're going to excel in that. Thank you so much, the both of you. I want to wish you luck and have a lot of fun today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think Sam's got a couple more students lined up.
Yep.
So
Okay.
that was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, I mean, here, by the way, that's 3 moms to 0 dads that are engaging and get their kids involved. So I love that. I love the fact that all these moms are seeing the possibilities of getting their children involved in this. Well, hello. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Do a quick intro if you don't mind.
Yeah. My name is Alden Mendry. I'm from Colorado, and I started playing drone soccer about a year ago.
So I see you're wearing the same T-shirt as Joe. So I'm assuming you guys are team players.
Yes, we're Colorado All-Star team.
And Joe said he is a striker. What position do you normally like to play?
I mainly play goalie, but I can strike as well.
So obviously a goalie, I think of hockey. Goalie keeping, preventing the drone. As Sam, I can see you've demonstrated this is a drone that's actually in the middle of the goal. How do you keep them out of going through that hoop as a goalie?
Something I found really helpful is accelerating a little bit forward when they're coming, because then I have some momentum to hit them away. Otherwise, they just kind of bounce and then I go backwards. But if I can get some acceleration first, then I can go forward and hit them away more easily.
And I think Ronzi, the referee, had said it the most. I mean, this is truly a competitive, but you actually have contact sport, I guess is what you're calling it. It's really a contact sport. I think that's pretty amazing. So I know we're running out of time, but I really wanted to ask about what qualities or what experiences that you've had by being involved in the drone soccer league there in Colorado. What have you learned, and also what have you learned, and specifically maybe just within your team?
I think some of the biggest things I've learned are team building, because we had to build our whole team up from the ground ourselves. We haven't had any adult help, so we had to coordinate all our practices and really figure that out. So that was a good thing to learn, to not depend on a parent for something, to have to set things up by ourselves and figure out how to fix everything. And I think that was a really good learning experience for me.
You think that was the biggest challenge so far? Or,
Yes,
or do you think that, okay. What about actually putting, building the drone and actually the first time you guys had the opportunity to fly it, what was the experience like to fly this? Because it's not like a DJI where, you know, it follows the GPS and, you know, you really, if you turn right, it'll turn right.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more wonky. Is that correct? I guess is the best way of describing it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit touchy. You got to really be fine with the controls. Flying it for the first time was really cool because I've flown some other drones before, but they are obviously a lot less sensitive. They're much slower, but this was so zippy, and I really enjoyed that because I could go so much faster, have so much more control over it.
Sometimes going fast, especially for me, when I fly drones, it gets a little scary. But there's different modes in the drone itself. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that because, you know, as everyone can see, I also have a drone here, which I'm pretty excited about. And it does not have a camera, correct? But it has, you know, basically it's just kind of, we call it a dummy drone where it flies, but it doesn't have a lot of intelligence. But can you tell us a little bit about the Betaflight that's connected with this drone?
So Betaflight, the main reason we have it is to adjust the angle limits and the programming. The angle limits let us choose how much the drone can tip and which determines how fast you can go. I personally like to fly a little slower so that I have more control over my drone. But the striker will usually fly faster so that they can get into the goal more quickly. Another key thing with Betaflight is where you can like tell the drone, I don't know the right word for it, but you get like the angle of it set up so that way it doesn't always veer left or veer right or something. You get it so it's flat and centered, which helps you hover in one spot. Those are really the two things that are the most important with it.
So do you find you have to calibrate those drones every time, every meet or every practice?
No, it's only really when you take a big hit or when you smack them something really hard. Otherwise, they generally stay pretty solid.
So in your team, just for the people that are not that familiar with drone soccer, it's a 3-minute match. Is that correct?
It's a 5-man match now.
Okay, 5-minute match.
Yeah.
How many goals has your team made? What was the most you ever made?
I would say on average we get around 22 or 23, but the most we've gotten is 32.
That is amazing. So I asked Joe, and I'm going to ask you the same question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you think you're still going to be flying drone soccer, or what do you think you'll be doing?
I think I definitely will still be flying, if not only for a rec league, if it doesn't really take off as much as I hope it does. But if it continues to grow like it's growing right now, I would love to possibly play competitive and maybe even go to college for it.
And that's why you're there today. You're
Yes.
at the World Game, and there's actually going to be Olympic members that are going to go and observe this game to see if they will include it in the actual Olympic Games, correct?
Yes.
How wonderful that would be for you to be one of the first gold medalists to win in drone soccer along with your team. That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. Sam, do you have another student?
Yeah, I have a new league owner. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Hey,
So her
good
name
luck
is Charlotte.
today. Really appreciate it. Charlotte.
Yes, she's coming around now.
So can you tell us a little bit about her, Sam? She's a new league member. What does that mean exactly, Sam?
Right. So new league member means that she's basically already purchased her professional kit, and they're in the process of building their team, and she's getting ready to host her first event. And so that's why I want her to come on. This is Miss Charlotte Kane.
Yes, how are you?
From Atlanta, Georgia.
Charlotte.
I'm sorry, right?
Yes, Atlanta. Yes, well, Atlanta metro area. And I will be doing the Stonecrest Fest in Atlanta on October 1st, where the drone soccer arena will be. And we will have a game at the festival on October 1st.
Charlotte, how were you introduced to drone soccer?
From Drone Pilot Georgia had introduced me to other drone companies that were looking for opportunities. And so they thought it would be nice for them to meet me. And they started telling me about the drone soccer. I'm like, what is that? And I Googled and I looked it up and saw all the activity going on. And I do a lot of outreach with youth. So it was very perfect for me to make it part of the festival, because each year that we do the festival, we always do community outreach for every age group, seniors to kids, and teens in middle and high school as well as elementary. So this was perfect for the teens in middle and high school. I do a lot of outreach in the urban communities around the Atlanta area. And so I knew that this was an activity that would absorb them, that would educate them, that would also give them something to do and something to look forward, and also build a confidence in them that they can do anything.
I think that that's probably the key there. But Charlotte, getting involved as a league, here you're putting together a league in Atlanta. When you go out to the public to either recruit sponsorship, and the sponsorship is, basically helping with buying the equipment and also the training. When you go out to businesses to try to encourage sponsorship, what do you do? And then the second question of that is, how do you recruit the young pilots to be involved and engage in this sport?
Parents are throwing their children at me. Okay. And the kids are like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. And I have my drone built already, and they saw me fly and they were like, wow, that's
she's good.
So they, the kids like seeing that and are very excited. And then also, talking to the different sponsors, they're like, well, how do I get my company out there to say, hey, look at me, I'm sponsoring a team, especially if you offer maybe the logo on the team shirt.
I saw some of the young pilots today wearing wearing a t-shirt, and wouldn't that be nice to say sponsored by, so-and-so local company?
Yes.
Just like softball leagues and other, hockey leagues or whatever that,
NFL.
have like parks and recreation or whatever, showing
Definitely.
that they sponsor a team. That would be great. So basically, Charlotte, the big hard sell is just showing them what drone soccer is, right? But how do you, what have you done to convince number one, schools or organizations? So a lot of the high schools need a program, but how do you approach them? What has been working for you to get the sponsorship, the money to put this league together?
Simply showing them the launch trailer for one, and then talking to them about it and giving them the materials and the information. It really almost sells itself. So I also might go to a city council meeting and do a presentation doing the public comment. And of course, they keep me there longer than the 3 minutes that they give me because they start having questions and they're like getting excited. Then there's always people that are at the public meeting that are giving you their cards and like, oh, I'm with the Housing Authority and I've got children in this particular community and I'd be interested. And so it really, sells itself. And then there are grants out there as well for schools, CTE, the school technical educator.
Yeah, CET.
Mhm.
Yeah, resources.
Apply for different grants. Mhm.
So Charlotte, do you have any young youth today that are going to be competing or demonstrating with the?
Well, no, not yet. I didn't bring anybody out today because I just got started. And so we've got to get our kids owning their skills a little more. And we're going to invite a lot of the children that are out here. We've invited them to come to Atlanta, which is about a couple of hours down the road. And so they're very excited about that opportunity. And we're going to have a pretty good turnout for that drone soccer game in Georgia.
Tell us again when that's going to be.
Saturday, October 1st. Actually, I'll be at the Stonecrest Mall in the parking lot. It's hosted by Privy, which is a new organization that's part of the mall. They took over an older Sears building, and now it's called Privy, and they've got food halls, and they've got Sequest, which is an interactive, feed the animals, 5 different continents, Pikachus, Bengal cats. Go into the cage with them, feed them birds, let them eat out of your hand. So that's also in Privy. They've got an art gallery there, and the mall is also attached. And so it's going to be outdoors in the mall parking lot. It's a very big area. We have a car and bike show, live entertainment, and drone soccer.
So it is going to be outside, just like the setup we have here.
Yes.
But
And
they're
then
still going to be in the cage, which is important. So
yes,
you don't have any flyaways. Any
professional arena. Yes.
Now, I have another question for Charlotte. Charlotte,
Yes, please.
you said since it's going to be in that particular location, is it going to stay there, or are you going to break it down when you get done with
Well, we'll break it
festival.
down when we get done because we have other people in the area who are interested in doing some different activities, and we have different rec centers, you know. And so as they get their teams, I'm going to offer the arena
for their
for them
usage?
to practice and things like that. You know, until they get, but some of them will be able to get a practice arena.
Okay, like the
Right.
one we have over.
But then
And
you
if I have
some
time-
people who do the package where they just want to get a team together.
Okay, and that's the $5,000 package or something.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Mhm.
So just because I have both you, Sam, and Charlotte, if you
Mhm.
kind of turn around, tell us exactly when you talk about setting up and breaking down what equipment that you have to actually have a
Professional
match.
game.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
professional arena is a 10 by 20 space, and you have to have it in a 30 by 40 area.
So is
because
that
you-
what we're looking at behind you, Charlotte?
Yes, I'm gonna see if let me unplug something here from my charger in a minute.
Okay.
Here. Okay, I'm gonna pick it up and so can you, okay,
Oh, so
okay,
you're,
Charlotte, keep talking.
you're actually in the cage itself at this time, which is
Yes.
really
Yes, we're inside of it. And
okay.
then you have the soccer goals on either side, and the
Okay.
whole object of the game is for the striker to get through the goal of the other team. And you have your defense that's trying to block that striker from getting.
Maggie, I'm gonna walk out so you can see it from the outside.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And
Just to
so
give
the-
people a perspective of the kind of
the
setup
professional
that you'd have to
arena,
have.
The thing with the professional arena is you have your banner. So that's another opportunity for sponsorship to have the banner with the logo up on the banner. This particular one is the Alabama Technology in Motion educators that have this particular arena. And then you also have the practice arena, which is not as sturdy and durable as the professional arena, but a lot of schools will get the classroom package where you can have two different teams with that package. You get the equipment and drones with that package, and the practice arena that you're looking at here with two goals in there so that you can have that up at your school or at your rec center and your team can practice. But in order for them to have an official game, that can only take place in a professional arena.
And how long and wide is that? Do you know approximately? So like if
The arena itself is 10 by 20, but the
Okay.
space that it goes in has to be 30 by 40, and you have to have 12 feet.
that's really good to know. I mean, it's definitely feasible. And the fact that David Roberts and Kyle Sanders and Lena and they make this accessible. In other words, they have the package, they have the arena, they have the scoreboard, they have the goal. It's just, buying a package like that, you can be all set. And that
Yeah.
league, and just to clarify, there's teams, which is like, let's say, team from the local YMCA, that's a team. And then a league is what you've advanced to, both Sam and Charlotte, where you kind of cover an area, demographic area, right? Or geographic area. So let's say, for instance, for Atlanta, the Atlanta area would be kind of basically your league. And then from there, you can compete like they're having a competition in Colorado Springs at the end of July, where you're actually competing not only from maybe your region or your league, but you're competing outside and you're competing with people, young pilots from Colorado, California, and so
Yes,
forth.
you can go out, you can play nationally, you can play locally, and it's an international affair as well, so it just depends on how this goes. This is the ground floor, and it's very exciting. The possibilities are exponential.
Yeah, I was going to kind of have you touch on that. I mean, what does it mean to be there today at the World Games, and how do you feel about the Olympic members actually considering this as an official sport?
I think it's awesome, and I think that the opportunities for the young people go beyond drone soccer because it can lead into so many other types of jobs.
Absolutely. mean, hopefully we'll see some gold medalists one day, you know, in the Olympics with the drone soccer. And again, you know, with it being a team sport too, I mean, there's just, you can take those qualities working with the team and troubleshooting, like some of the students and parents said, you know, and learning that and being able to take it to whatever career they want to get into, basically.
Right.
Sam, do you have any other students? Charlotte, thank you for your time.
I think we're all done.
Okay.
Because we're gonna be heading over to the drone racing, where that's in the stadium, but we have a hard stop here about 10 minutes because they're gonna shut down, and the referee has to walk us all over so we can be in place for the drone racing.
Well, it's 11 o'clock. We got about 30 minutes. Is there any other things that you want to emphasize about, you know, today in particular? I know that you're going to see the actual
Yes,
drone.
I do. I'm gonna have Runzi come back over. I'm gonna go back and so I can stabilize my gimbal here.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Char. Nice talking to you.
Okay, so give me a second. I'm gonna go off screen for a minute to get back over there.
Sure, no worries. Just so you guys can see, you know, I'm also in the process of getting a league here in the DFW area. So the first thing we do is we get a kit that we can actually put these drones together. We learn it as the quote instructor or the team member or the lead with the league. We learn everything about this, and it's connected to a program called Betaflight. I think a lot of people are familiar with Betaflight. That do any kind of drone racing. It's the way that you can code and you can actually set it up. And Evan, feel free to chime in anytime you'd like, because Evan Morelli, who is a member of the Know Before You Fly team that always presents every month, he's competed with drone racing before, so he's familiar with this little control here. But I don't find it very complicated. I mean, it is a little bit of a challenge. And one of the things I love about this drone soccer, if somebody or a parent or a teacher wants to get involved, you can pull these apart, take them apart, and then have the next group of young pilots put it together. So it's something that they can pull apart and put together and learn again and again. So it's not one of those things is once you put it together, then you're done. You actually, these come in pieces. And from what I understand from Kyle Sanders, these propellers are what breaks a lot, and also the cage. Hi, welcome back, Ronzi. I appreciate it. Ronzi. Oh, it's been going great. So while Sam was getting you, I was showing him basically the drone and how you can pull it apart for, you know, to teach the kids. And let's say you have a summer camp and you know, they build it, you can actually take it apart. And so when school starts and you've got another league or team, you can have them put it together again, correct?
Yes. The cage is a sacrificable part. It's all held together with zip ties. So, you know, it goes together relatively quickly. And this cage is a lifesaver. You know, it'll save your props, it'll save your drone, it'll save your batteries. You know, it's a nice durable platform to fly on.
What part do you see being replaced the most often? Is it the cage or is it the propeller? What is it?
Surprisingly enough, these props are exploding all over the place.
They are.
You know, we've got pieces, we've got parts of props just laying around all over the ground in here.
So I have a question for you. If you see this happening, let's say a team constantly is having to stop and change the propellers, can the team actually go and you know, 3D copying right now is really popular. Can they make their own propellers that maybe don't break off as easy, or what can they do?
So there is a weight requirement on these, and you know, we've gone through 3 different styles of props during the course of my time with drone sports, and we found that these 5-bladed props are the best balance between power, durability, and noise. So, you know, these props they're a consumable part. They're really cheap. They're not designed to break, but they're designed to be easily replaceable when they break. Not if, but when, because they will.
I've seen some of the videos, and I've actually seen some of these drones get caught in the net. How often does that happen? And
Well, it depends on the skill of the pilot, but the newer ones they get caught up a little bit more than the older ones. But if you got a properly built drone, the outside is smooth and they just kind of glide along the side.
That's really neat. So again, I want to bring us back to why we're here, why we're at the World Game today, and how significant it is to get the Olympic officials to actually observe and see the demonstration today.
So yes, we're here. We're here in Birmingham, Alabama, for it's our audition for the world stage for air sports, drone racing, drone soccer, and canopy racing.
And what's the difference between the canopy racing and drone racing today versus what you're doing with the drone soccer league?
So canopy racing is think of a parachutist trying to hit a target. That's essentially canopy racing. Drone racing is you're taking a drone and you're flying around, through, under, around different obstacles, and these pilots they're operating at a very, very, very high level. They are split-second reaction times. Their drones are capable of over 100-mile-an-hour flight.
Oh my gosh!
And they're zipping around in this full football stadium at full speed.
That's what I was going to ask. That's why we have to be over there for that activity, and because of the FAA regulations.
Yes, we are within Birmingham Airport's tower airspace. It's controlled, and then we've got additional security restrictions because of the World Games that are happening. So it's been a feat to get cleared for drone operations during this time. It's
one of the distinctive things is what I heard from you is the canopy piloting and also the drone racing. There's one pilot.
Yes.
One pilot in command. In the canopy piloting, are they officially an FAA pilot?
I'm not sure what the restrictions for, I'm not sure what the certification requirements are for a pilot. It's just just a normal parachuting operation.
Yeah, just jumping out of an airplane or something like that. That's all.
With the drone,
And then-
right?
No. They're just they're piloting themselves.
Right.
So they're steering the canopy towards their target.
And then the drone racing, again, that's still an individual. Do they usually have a team work with them? So like they're troubleshooting or whatever, or do you just see with the drone racing are they just individuals that fly and do their own repairs? I mean, I'm just trying to give them the audience a perspective of the difference between those two sports and then the drone soccer sport.
So usually a pilot for a drone racing is they're their mechanic, they're their own coach, and they're also the pilot. So they wear all the hats during that. For drone soccer, it's a team sport. We're all kind of working together, and that makes things a little bit easier because you can get experience from somebody who might be better at tuning, or someone might be better at flying, whereas a third person might be better at coaching or coming up with different strategies.
Yeah, and we were talking to some of the students. I mean, there's the striker, the goalie, what do you call them? The sweep? Is that correct?
Sweeper.
Yes.
Now, what does the sweeper do? Because I know that pretty much we know the striker is the one that makes the goals and flies the drone in the goal, and then obviously the goalie is trying to push it out so it prevents him from going into the goal. What is the sweeper?
So the sweeper's job is to clear a path for the striker to make a goal. They'll go in and they'll try to knock other drone balls out of the way in order to make it easier for the striker to score.
You're upside down again, Sam. Are you trying to get into a?
I was gonna just try to see if I had a picture but they were posing here. Let me see if I have another one to kind of give you a visual.
They look happy. That's the biggest thing. They look very happy.
The temperatures here have been 95 plus degrees.
I was really shocked to hear when Sam said that they were sunning it up outside. I'm thinking, holy cow, it's just like one of the hottest summers. And here they are, having their the league here. Okay, so
Everybody
now
have-
I see that they've set up the 5 drones because five for each team. So there's actually 10 drones in that actual cage, right?
Yes.
And again, you've already got 2 of them out. One is the goalie, one is the striker, and then you have 3 others that are sweepers. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on what strategy that the team wants to play. If they want to do 3 goalies, that works. I've seen
Oh.
teams attempt that one.
Okay.
And 1 sweeper and a striker. Maybe they have multiple strikers or multiple sweepers and 1 striker, or I've seen matches where there's only 1 drone left flying at the end because of equipment issues, broken.
So in other words, you've got 5 minutes for each match. Let's say 2 drones get knocked out for some reason. They, either they lost a propeller or something went wrong, the batteries or whatever, somehow malfunctioned. Then you have 3 drones that, they continue to play. They don't stop the game, do they? Do they stop
Nope.
the match? Okay.
No, the only thing that stops games is if the striker is out of commission. We'll land everybody. We'll designate a new striker, and then the game will resume.
So Ronzi, tell me a little bit about the striker. Can any of the drones make a score? Or is it only the striker that can make a go? Can you kind of distinguish what their role might be?
So we'll designate a striker with usually a flag on the bottom. The team gets to pick the color that they like. We've got yellow and blue this time, but if they want to bring a special colored tape or anything like that, we'll put a little bit of tape on the bottom of their drone, and that'll be the striker for the until either the end of the match or until that one's out of commission.
And as an umpire, basically official, that helps you a lot because then you can always watch the actual striker making scores. Are you the one that keeps track of these scores, or who keeps track of the scores that they make? Because I just talked to one of the students and they said they actually have done over 30, 30, what do you call them, goals. They've actually completed the, going and flying through the hoop over 30 times in 5 minutes. That's a lot going on in the arena.
Yes. There are, when you've got an imbalance between the skill level of teams, that can happen. That can happen. Just being able to control your drone and keep it where you want it to be is another aspect of the game that's super important. And in the 2 days that we've been doing these practice rounds, I've seen so much progress in these teams that have not actually flown against other teams. So it's good to see that growth.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about the skill sets that they're learning. It takes a lot, again, I compare it with some of our youth that are obsessed with these games on the computer. This is a next level up, or maybe 5 levels up. Don't you agree?
This is computer games for the real world. You in a computer game, you can hit the reset button. In real life, you have to figure out what the problem is and you have to fix it. And then you have to say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that next time because it cost me 5 minutes, it cost me 10 minutes, it cost me $2. So, real world video game.
So as an official, what else is your role, your purpose? Because, here we're trying to put a league together, well, in Hollywood and Atlanta with Charlotte and DFW area. What are all the players within the match itself? I mean, obviously we know there's the pilots, right? The 5 pilots on either side, but what are the other essential roles that will help get this game together, the match together?
So optimally, we'll have 2 scorekeepers. There'll be an official that is taking stats and a referee.
Okay.
The ref is responsible for bringing the drones in and out of the arena, making decision calls. Our scorekeepers are watching, each one is given a ball to watch, and they're watching for scores. The referee is looking for offsides calls because after a ball scores, the entire team is supposed to go back behind the midfield line and then they can continue to score. If they score and everybody hasn't, that score isn't counted. With 10 of these drones flying around in the arena, it's a lot to keep track of as one person. So the bigger you can have your team, optimally around 4, the easier it is for everybody to take a piece of the action and watch that.
So I'm trying to picture this. You've got 2 strikers in the cage. Can they simultaneously make a score on their opposing court?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
It happens often.
And then every time it happens, go ahead.
I tried to score a game by myself and watching both strikers, and it's really hard. It is very, very, very hard.
I'm sure that it keeps you up at night sometimes. Did I miss that? And I know that we were talking about this before, but it's so key to have somebody actually recording the game, because you can use that correct as a reference. Like if you did miss something, you can have a playback. Is that correct?
That is also actually a really helpful to enable to do the replays and go back and review the footage.
I see that this game is a little bit of basketball, a little bit of hockey, because like basketball, if you make a score, doesn't the team have to go back, or can they just score after score, or do they have to go back to their court before they can make another score? Sorry,
So
you got it.
In drone soccer, if we score, everybody has to go back past the halfway line, and then they can reset and score again. But like I said, it's a lot to look at. It's a lot to look at.
I mean, could you imagine, here one team scores and then they're going back. Do they have to immediately go back to their home court? What happens if the team from the other side, the opposing team, makes a score too, just like 60 seconds or 30 seconds after the first one score, and they're already in the process of going back to their home court? Then it kind of interferes with protecting their goal. Is that not? I mean, I'm trying to picture that.
And that's how some of the strategy works. Do you want to keep all of your drones on your side and just have the striker go? Maybe the striker and the sweeper are the only ones that are going across the line, or do you just leave the striker out by himself? Who knows? We're not sure what the best strategy is. I've seen a few. I think some work and some don't. But maybe there's a special team out there who's figured out how to just go with just a striker.
Yeah, and I see that being definitely a skill set and something where, when you first fly, you're just worried about getting the drone up in the air. Yes. and then through the goalie. But then now you've got all these other considerations. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of rules, but are the rules made up nationally or just the U.S. soccer leagues? I mean, how do they figure out what's the do's and don'ts of this game?
So our rules are they're created by the FAI. That's the Federation of Aviation International, I believe is what it is. I think it's French. And they've created the rules, and they've said, okay, this is what a drone ball is. This is what a drone arena looks like. This is a goal. This is how gameplay is managed.
And when you meet with these young pilots, do you initially, before a tournament, do you sit and talk with each of the students about the responsibilities, about the rules of the game, who you are, what decisions you make versus what decisions either the team makes themselves? Can you kind of distinguish that just a little so that we can understand it a little bit more?
So informally, I'll ask what their strategy is, and that those kinds of things. But another one of our purposes here this week is to train other folks who are going to be taking over drone soccer in their local areas. So, I'm taking the responsibility to try to train some of the referees, maybe some of the coaches, so they can coach and referee matches. We discuss rules. Occasionally, from time to time, I may put more emphasis on a pre-flight inspection. Are your wires in good shape? Are your props in good shape? Do you have anything that's going to interfere with the operation of your aircraft?
Yeah, and I think that that's key when you want it to perform the most optimal performance when you're actually engaged in that 5-minute match, right?
Yes.
So Sam, with you being a new league, the Hollywood League, tell us, I'd really love to hear from you what this means to be at the World and what is the takeaway that you've had just being there and helping out.
My biggest takeaway, there are a couple of things. First of all, seeing the actual setup and getting an understanding that there's a difference. There's the pro arena, which is what we're sitting in now.
Mhm.
That's the practice arena. And then there's another type of practice arena, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then also seeing the engagement of the pilots, because right now we're all at closed capacity, where we got our pilots, 5 of them on one end, 5 of them on the other end. But we also have parents. We also have, of course, audience. So, but seeing how it's all put together. And then lastly, being able to connect with Lima, Dave, the CEO, referee, and of course, I'm missing some people.
Kyle,
Other professional.
yeah.
Kyle, yes. And then drone racing, being able to see that live, which we will be going and seeing in the next 15 to 20 minutes, and setting that up. But just like I say, being involved and seeing it for real, it's a lot different than seeing it on the videos. The videos definitely do it justice, but just seeing how the students are, and it gets a little crazy.
Yes.
It gets a little crazy. And I've also been taught a couple of referee skills, about getting in and, before they can turn their controllers on first.
Yes.
But you still need the referee to plug all of the drones in. And so you have to be inside of the cage. Typically, and I'm going to ask, do you have 1 or 2 referees?
Usually it's just one referee.
So the referee has to do a lot. And then the other thing, seeing the parents. The parents are the ones that are managing the scoreboards. So the parents are tuned in to watching the balls. So there's a lot of management that is going on here. So so it's kind of like family in business, but we all have to come together to make sure that these young pilots are successful and graceful with the sport.
Graceful, and I think also the learner.
And also, Maggie, from being at the World Games, I'm also, just going around talking to the people. When I go into a restaurant, I'm just stand up and make an announcement that we exist. And so I met, like maybe 4 teachers already who were like, give me your card. I'm going to tell my principal about this. I'm going to call you. How can I get in touch with you? So it's been really good because I'm connecting with people that are going to be 2,000 miles away, but I hope to help them be able to engage in drone soccer.
Yeah, I know that when I walked around with my drone at the Energy and Robotic Conference and also the PX4 Summit, all I had to do was carry it around, and the curiosity, especially from the engineers, were like, what is this? What's this all about? And it really does open up a conversation. Speaking of conversations, we had him on in the chat asking about the wind gusts. So typically you usually have these matches indoors or outdoors. What is it, Ronzi?
Typically they're indoors. This is actually our first time hosting one of these events outside, and it's a challenge. We've got winds coming, from this direction, and you can definitely see and feel.
North.
You can definitely feel the change in performance of the aircraft.
I love that. It's kind of like not being on your home team, your home field, you actually are going somewhere else where, number one, you may not have the positive, you get set in your ways of how you're going to do this and how you're going to score. And with it being outside, I never thought of it. So just, when Aman brought it up, I mean, really, it's another challenge, Razi, you're right. It is. And that requires, right, the team to get back and strategize again, saying, hey, this is not the same game. It's a little different. We've got these challenges, and, we're used to, doing certain ways of controlling the drone. We're going to have to compensate for that wind, especially when the wind is against you, right?
I'm interested to see during tournament play if any of the teams actually do take the weather into account. Are they going to put their opponents in the sun? Are they going to have the wind to their backs or to their fronts? I'm curious.
How do they get assigned what side they're playing? And if that's the case, in the one match, they might be on the, let's call it the A side. And then the next match, do they get assigned to the B side, or do they always stay on that one side?
Well, the winner will pick what side they want. Whoever's on top or higher, entirely seated will pick the side that they're going to be on.
Sam, did you say, I'm sorry, did you have a question? Did you have some comments?
No, I'm good.
No, that's great. Well, we're down to, maybe 5 minutes. So again, I would love to hear from both of you about what it means to be there at the World Games today and the outcome that you'd really like to see.
The outcome I'd like to see is definitely being in touch with more of the leagues, because now, when we have our monthly townhouse meetings, I've met many people, or like Charles, William, like they say, oh yeah, I know you, Sam, you've been on the townhouse meeting. But putting a face to, to those, put a name to the face, and also being invited to other games. Because Charlotte King, who was on earlier, she's invited me to their Woodcrest Festival in October. So just building the, the community, and like I say, establishing contacts, and being able to shadow other teams to see what they're doing and what's working. As Charlotte also mentioned, that she shows up at the city council meetings. So that's definitely something I can do it locally in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. Ronzi, can you kind of give us what you'd like to see the end game, quote, the end game with this World Games this week?
I'm here to spread the word of drone soccer. It's not just drone soccer. It's electronics. It's computer science. It is diagnosis. It is fixing. There are so many disciplines involved with this. And, the more drones I can get into people's hands and the more I can get them fixing, the happier I am. I'm here for fun.
That's fantastic. So here I am at the audience, I'm sure. Now we want to see some of these demonstrations happen here at the World Game. Is there a way that we can view this demonstration this week? I think the first one's going to be on 3 o'clock today. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll be playing this afternoon at 3 o'clock. If you want to come down, we don't have a live stream set up or anything, but if you want to come down, if you're in Birmingham, come check us out.
Will there be some?
I'm sorry.
Will there be actually taping of it? So like maybe we can't see it live, but we can go back and actually see some of the taping of the competition?
As of right now, we don't have a video set up. We can always take some production folks if they want to volunteer for us. But I'm being pulled in 8 directions, and 9 is maybe one too many.
Yeah, maybe one too many. But Sam, will you be able to do some recording possibly so they can share it with us in later days?
Yes. I'll be able to do some recording and just set up one of those online accounts so you can access the video.
Okay, that would be great. And just FYI, Sam and I do a clubhouse on USA Drone Soccer every Tuesday on Clubhouse from noon. And of course, being Clubhouse, it's free. And we usually bring people as yourself, Ronzi, or some of the students or some of the teachers. We've had actually teachers on just to kind of say what their progress is, step-to-step progress, and also what they've seen out of their own students. So I would encourage everyone to join us on Clubhouse every Tuesday at noon Central Time. Thank you so much. I think that this has been really exciting. I'm just bummed that we can't actually see the live competition, but maybe next year, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Maggie.
Really appreciate your time and
Thanks, Sharon, Ernest, everybody.
yeah,
Good time to set this up.
Have a great time. And I am going to close this segment and ask everyone, by the way, this was one of the most exciting workshops I've done because I just love the energy that you guys are giving off. But please fill out a survey. We're going to be putting the survey in the chat. and we'll also email you the survey. But this is how we hear if we're doing good, if we're giving you the information that you want with the Know Before You Fly Your Drone. Thanks again, you guys. I appreciate it. So
Thanks,
now
Maggie.
we're going to
Bye, everyone.
Bye. I wanted to tell you, Evan's always with us, Evan Morelli, every workshop. And one of the things I love about him is that, you know, I like to fly and I like to take pictures, but Evan knows everything about these drones. And specifically, I wanted him today to address these batteries, that they're not like the DJI batteries. So Evan, are you there? I would love to hear your idea. Wasn't that a great?
That was a great section. That was a great section.
Again, I'd love to have you talk a little bit about the maintenance and considerations, because even though this is fun and it's one of the upcoming of, you know, team sports that, you know, a window to aviation for a lot of these youths. Tell us a little bit about the responsibilities and what considerations that you have to make, even if you're flying in a cage.
All right, we'll do. So let me share my screen real quick.
Thank you.
Where's the share? And everybody see it all right? Oh, I muted myself. Can y'all hear me? I messed up my mute.
Yes. Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Oh, that's interesting. I did a screen share and now I can't hear anybody. So
I don't know why mine is like, I can hear you now, so it's all
Okay.
good. And I can also hear the fire trucks in the background, so I'm gonna mute myself.
all right, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me right now. Okay, cool. All right, so let's just do it this way then. So on-site consideration. So my name is Evan Morelli. I run Elm Aerial Services. I've done a large amount of drone specific flights, whether there be sport flights or industrial flights, working with insurance companies, working with Maggie, so on and so forth. And one of the things I want to talk about today is your on-site considerations. I've got Maggie frozen on my screen. Am I having issues? Yes or no?
No, you're fine.
Okay, cool. Everything's just frozen on my screen. I don't know why. Okay, so when you're doing any kind of operations, especially if you're doing sports operations, there's a couple incredibly important things to consider. And one of the most important things has to do with your on-site considerations. Okay, so whether you're flying in the morning, so in a lot of these large, like multi-heat, multi-race sporting events, right, you will have them run all day. So understanding like when civil twilight's going to be, as well as like how you're going to organize it, is a big logistical task, as well as making sure that you're compliant with visual line of sight. Especially if you're doing first person view, you always have to have a visual observer, you have to have a spotter, because your face is dug down into the what's it called, into the goggles. So you have to also understand that there's weather visibility limitations, and you'll have bleachers and several segments where you'll have your audience, your actual participants, and so there's a lot of considerations. And so I'm going to be going a little bit more deeper into that. So the main thing you're going to deal with when you have lots of drones in one space, especially like an acrobatic space, like for drone racings, but also too for drone soccer, this would totally come into play, is RF interference. And that's not just from metal, which can be a factor, especially if you're like, you have retrofitted like soccer field or baseball field or what have you, because the poles and the metal and all the scaffolding and everything that will be around will cause some interference, but also has to do with all the other drone pilots around you. So typically in these open connection plans that they have, whether they be for your controller or for your video feed, typically the controllers will have what's called a locked signal. They're calibrated just to them, so you don't really have to deal with that much. However, like Spectrum and Futaba will typically have a locked spectrum for once you have binded your receiver to your transmitter. But for video, you oftentimes have to assign channels to each and every individual drone, and you will get a lot of bleed over if you don't calibrate those perfectly. So that is a huge task and what takes up most of the logistical time in dealing with any kind of like multi-drone interaction for like sports events. It's the same thing too if you're running, you know, multiple drones and you're doing some kind of work event or like TV event or anything to that effect. So in your connection planning, you have to be able to chart out, and they'll typically, if you go onto like Dallas Drone Racing and some of the local clubs that they have around the DFW area, which the DFW region, our region, is extremely active with drone racing. And it's one of the best drone racing areas in the country for, you know, we used to have like several of the world's top drone racers are pretty regular in some of the hobby communities that, you know, fly over by George Bush, right? Or there's a field over by it. So they'll spend a lot of time on the back end doing the channel assignment, making sure that your equipment works. There's a lot that goes into all the way leading up to when you actually take off. And it can be very technical. So that really helps you encourage skills such as, you know, soldering, the programming. Most of these people use Betaflight. There are several other flight controller protocols that you can use, but the best way to learn how to deal with this stuff is to join one of these communities, because these communities will be like, here, you need to do X, Y, Z thing, and this is why. They're very open. They're very good for explaining what's going on and giving you details about, like, you know, with your power, your frequency of your antenna positioning, right? Are you right-sided or left-sided for your antenna? Because they are different. Typically, you can have two drones on the same channel, one left, one right, and they're counter-cyclical to one another, and so they don't interfere, right? So, and you also have to determine whether or not you're pushing out too much power, because there's a bell curve when it comes to the video feed, and you'll get the clearest picture at the top of the bell curve. But if you increase the power, that bell curve becomes wider as it crosses into lower and higher frequency ranges. So you can do something called blasting people out, where basically you've turned up your transmitter on your video so high that it just overwhelms every other person on every other channel, and they all get interfered with and can't see through their goggles.
Evan, I have a quick question in regards to comparing drone racing to drone soccer. Does drone racing have a camera versus, I know drone soccer doesn't have a camera. And I know that with drone soccer, the actual drone is linked with just that one controller. But I was just wondering, you know, of those considerations would, you know, for interference.
So it really depends on the equipment that you're using. So typically with controllers, and whether you're drone racing or doing drone soccer, you're going to be using a 2.4 gigahertz connection, because of the amount of data that goes from your controller to the drone is actually relatively small, while the video feed is going to be at 5.8 gigahertz. So the considerations on it really depends on what controller you're using and whether it has an FCC licensed channel on it. Because if it's an unlicensed channel and you're using an open bandwidth channel that you're using to access your drone, that's when you can run into issues where you actually have people somehow get control of your drone and you get controllers cross-hatched with one another. And that stuff does somewhat happen, but it's pretty rare.
But that happens with drone racing, because I know that the drone soccer doesn't have that. But how important is it to have your ham license if you're working that frequency?
For racing, or
yes, for racing, because I know for drone soccer it's not required, because you're not using that frequency, and because you don't have an actual camera, a sensor, you know.
Yeah, so it's not. The ham license is more for like extreme range and trying to push more data down, so more applicable to commercial and like long range flying. Because you at most you would, let's say drone soccer did have cameras, first person view cameras, at most that's the biggest amount of data you're going to be pushing, and they're not going to be far from their drones. So there's not really a lot of environmental dynamics that are going to cause you to need to bump outside of the allowable features within an open band range.
So again, I know drone soccer doesn't have a camera. Does drone racing have a camera?
They do. There's some drone racing that doesn't, some that does. Most of it does, but it really just kind of depends on what format you're using. And there's also like freestyle competitions as well that doesn't have cameras but can record video. So it just depends. It there's a lot of sub classes to drone sports that have been kind of propagating throughout the last like 5 to 7 years. And
Right.
so some of them are more or less popular, and they'll use different configurations, like even just strapping a GoPro to the top of your drone and then looking at it later on, right? They're not actually sending that stuff back down to ground station.
Well, with the level at the World Games today, with that level, is there, number one, are you familiar with, is there a weight limit? And is there certain where there's competition, they can decide what drone they're going to fly and what controllers they're going to use, what program they're going to use? Or is it more strict? Are you aware on the actual?
So typically they'll use with drone soccer, right? You're going to have a weight limit. Your main limiting, let me answer it this way. Your main limiting factor when it comes to these sporting events is the fact that with drone racing, for instance, those that you were showing me earlier, that 4-cell battery, I don't know if you can show the group real quick.
Yeah.
But those R lines, those Tato R lines, which are really great batteries, and they're used for both soccer and they're very, very, very common in drone racing as well. When you're racing, those things last at best 2 to 3 minutes. You burn those things down extremely quickly. So you're always playing this game of, okay, how much power do I want? By adding more power, I'm draining my battery faster, and all I can do is scale up to a bigger battery, which makes me heavier, which makes me drain more power. And then you start to get this diminishing return factor. So there's, and moreover with the prop choice, like I think it was a 5-prong prop on the soccer drone behind you. 3-prong props will give you more efficiency, but not as much power, right? Whereas the more props you have, the more power you have, but the more inefficient it is. So think about going from like a V6 to a V8, right? So that will make an effect on, as they were talking about earlier, like these last for about 5 minutes. If you're running, an 8 prop, I don't know if they make them at the 2.5-inch size, which I believe is what that size of drone is. You're going to use more power. You're going to have a lot of power, but you're going to use more of your electricity. And so that may not let you actually last that 5 minutes. So there's a lot of strategy there in what your configuration also looks like. And, running parallel cells versus, just one 4S, your output. So there's a lot of considerations, and typically a weight limit kind of says, all right, well, we're just going to chop off these different configurations that people may employ just to make things more uniform. And that does help a lot in just having a more even playing field, because you can do a bunch of weird stuff with all the different individual dynamics.
I wanted to power this up just so that the audience can see that these actually have lights. And I know that they have different colored lights for different teams, but there's also, I don't know if you can see it, there's blue lights, and then there's also, you see there's a yellow light on this side and a white light on this side. And I see these tiny little antennas right here. So the pilot can actually see them, is the drone going forward or backwards and so forth. So I thought that was really important. So the lights would have to be essential. But again, you have the flexibility. And I don't know if Ronzi was on the air when he talked about this is what breaks the most are these little propellers, but they're easily replaced. But again, when you have a weight limit, those are all the elements that you have to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And also one of the important things, so configuration, having your lights there, because you're doing what's called line of sight flying, which is pretty traditional, because drones really come out of RC helicopters and things of that nature, RC planes and everything. That's how you used to have to do it. And it's a very difficult skill to develop. And when your drone turns around on you and all your controls flip, so left is right and right is left, and so on and so forth, that takes a while for your brain to kind of understand and get good at. And it's a skill that is definitely difficult to develop, but once you kind of got it, it's kind of like riding a bike. You may need to tune up, if you leave a drone for a while, but it's a very interesting skill, and it makes people panic a lot. So that's something important to do. I'm going to go down to the battery maintenance since I only got about 15 minutes left. So
Yeah, we're good on that one. But
So-
just a really quick question on the difference between the drone racing and the drone soccer. I don't think these can flip, but the drone racing, they can flip, correct? And when you're talking about orientation of, hand-eye coordination of where your drone is and what your drone is doing, the drone racing, they can actually flip. But if they flip, can they continue to fly?
yeah, so that the ability for the drone to have a maximum pitch of like 45 degrees versus do a complete acro mode, which acro mode means it just doesn't care if you tell it to spin, it'll flip around as many times as you have the stick turned. That is entirely in the software. Those are purely limits that are set in the software because there'll be an accelerometer. Different flight controllers will have different sub features on them. Like they'll all have accelerometers or IMUs that pretty much dictate whether it's going up, down, left, right, all around. And yes, they do decalibrate when you take a big shock, as was talked about earlier, and you do need to you should calibrate them pretty regularly if you're doing a sporting type flying, because these things take a beating. They really do. And you have to learn how to resolder them and fix them and learn how to solder well so you don't have brittle solder joints and what have you. But typically with like freestyle is probably a better example compared to the soccer. The racing, you're trying to be as fast as possible. So whatever gets you there fastest is what you do. So some courses you may not do split S type maneuver, which would be a way to turn around while preserving momentum. But with freestyle, you're up, down, all around, flipping around, do all sorts of crazy stuff versus like drone soccer, which I can imagine would be probably similar to racing. And so you got to think about when it comes to these drones and you're trying to make them maneuver in a sporty way, you're constantly redirecting a thrust vector that's coming out that's pushing down away from the drone towards the bottom. And so there's times when it's important to, like for instance, if you want to stop really, really fast, if you drop your throttle to 0 and then rotate your drone around 180 degrees and then punch it, you'll stop significantly faster than if you try to slowly angle yourself back up. But that requires you to pitch yourself 180 degrees. So that is the main thing you got to worry. The main thing you got to consider is orientation. If you're not using a camera, it's much easier to use a camera. But that's there are times when like a stability mode, which would be a lot better for hovering. And I can imagine a stability mode might be better for like a goalie. And I'm making that up because I've never played drone soccer, but stability mode would be really easy because a full acro mode is extremely difficult to sit still and just have your drone hover. That's really hard actually, because you're so sensitive. The controls are so sensitive. Your rates, as they're referred to, which are very tunable within the drone, your rates will be very sensitive. And so it may be difficult for you to keep yourself in a small zone for the purpose of defending like a goal.
Now I can understand, Evan, before we move into the battery, you've got these other games that are the world games, or excuse me, the Olympics, like, is it bobsledding or something? So, the drone is actually like the sled. You have to understand how you need to, I don't want to say manipulate, control it, to have it perform at the height that you need to be competitive, right? So this is why I think drone racing and in particular drone soccer are to be considered into the Olympics, because it does take a lot of skill set in those elements and everything like that. All the things that you have to think about as a pilot to engage and to compete is really important. And I think that I just wanted to make a point. That's why I think it's really imperative that the Olympics hopefully will consider these as, with drone racing, the skill set you have to have for that. And then of course, drone soccer, the skill set that you have with that, and being totally different, one individually and one a team sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind that when you are doing a sport, drone sport, like and you and I, Maggie, we've worked a lot with DJI drones where we put together flight plans that are very specific and well regimented, and we know exactly when and where we're going to be when we're going to be where. That's not how this works. This is a full manual events. You're just projecting your control, similar to like racing a race car. Some stuff is very little is done for you. It really comes down to the decision making, the experience, and the practice of the individual that's behind the wheel or behind the sticks. So it is very much so a skill. Most of the time with drone racing, for instance, these people, they have maneuvers that are memorized. Like split S is a very common one. It's kind of your intro, not just flying around and hovering around sort of maneuver, but it really is, you just memorize what the stick movement is, and then you tune your rates so that when you do that stick movement, the drone does exactly what you want it to do. And that's, you know, typically with a with that particular one is left stick bottom left, right stick up right. And when you do that and kind of pull the sticks away, it will flip around and turn around. And you just memorize those maneuvers similar to how you memorize how you would, like if you were in baseball, how to do a particular type of strategy when it comes to running to bases, or if you're in bobsledding, right? As you're talking about how to move your body to get an extra piece of momentum preserved through a turn or whatever, what have you. So it is very comparable in just knowing how to maximize the effect of a standardized piece of equipment that your competitors are going to also be kind of brought to.
So we talked about the equipment itself. I think as I did an intro, the scariest part of being a team leader is the batteries. And, you know, understanding there's a difference between like our DJI regular auto batteries versus these batteries that are used for the sports. Can you tell us a little bit of the difference? And I'll let you go ahead and talk about the maintenance of it.
Yeah, so they're very different. They're, I believe, better in a lot of ways, because once you understand how these just, you know, basic batteries work, you can get so much more out of them than you would get with like a typical retail drone battery, like a DJI battery or what have you. So the primary difference between them, because fundamentally they are the same as far as the way that they hold electricity. They usually run per cell between 4.2 volts and 3.8 volts. And then at 3.8 they're empty, 4.2 they're full. And so you're discharging in the difference. So the main difference though between, apart from that, the main difference is that they don't have a printed copper board attached to them that regulates them. And that's a big deal. So you can run them out lower than 3.8 volts, and in some cases charge them up beyond 4.3 volts. Now, when you charge them up, you're running the risk of having them combust. When you run them down, you're running the risk of these cells going out of stabilization with one another. And then you'll have, once each cell is a certain difference in voltage from one another, the battery's pretty ruined. It's difficult. There are tricks you can use to jump them back together and cycle them back together, but generally it hurts the battery quite a bit. So you're really kind of responsible for what the gas tank is empty. You can still keep going, but it's just going to hurt the gas tank kind of thing. Moreover, because it doesn't have the printed copper board controller on it, you also don't have parasitic drain, so their shelf life is significantly longer. They pretty much will stay good. I don't know. I have batteries that are years old that have been sitting in storage mode and are perfect. And I just tested them the other day and they're perfectly good still, because you just put them away properly. While batteries that have printed copper boards, they will have parasitic drain. And if you leave them on the shelf for 6 months, you're going to come back to a totally dead battery. And there's nothing you can do about it. And you're going to have to throw it away and replace it. Which if you do have dead batteries, take them to Home Depot. They will dispose of your LiPo batteries. Do not, under any circumstances, put them in your trash can. And as an extension of that, if you have a bunch of LiPo batteries around, go to like Home Depot, get a aluminum bucket and some play sand or construction sand, and keep that around, because when these things do occasionally pop, which is typically, especially with like a full contact sport like soccer, drone soccer would be, or racing or freestyling, it usually has to do with two cells being punctured and touching one another and shorting. And when that happens, there's a surge of voltage and that can cause a combustion. So when that happens, or if that happens, or what have you, just from where the batteries tend to be stored, having that sandy bucket right there, it gives you a quick place to just toss the battery. It's not going to explode like a bomb. It's actually going to start fizzling like a blowtorch. So that's the kind of behavior that you get. And that's okay to just let it do that. There's nothing you can do about it, but just let it do it. But do it have it in a receptacle that won't combust with it, no matter how much energy it's letting out. There will be
I know
smoke.
one of the requirements for utilizing these drones for drone soccer is you have to have a bucket of sand. So yeah, absolutely. Easy to toss in there and let it do its thing.
It's an absolutely mandatory piece of safety equipment with any LiPo batteries, whether you're working commercially, sports, or otherwise. It is a fundamental safe practice of a bucket of sand. And
when you said you have those batteries, sorry, when you say you have those batteries, that you haven't picked up or looked at to see what its performance is or the voltage, do you have them in a certain fireproof bag, or where how do you store them, and why is it important?
Yeah, let me
I
stop sharing. Let me turn on my video.
Okay.
Oh man, I gotta take this. Okay, I've got a place right behind my desk that I keep them. Let me turn off my background for a second and I can show you. Background, and then I just want none. Okay. Sorry about my hair, guys. Okay, so I usually keep my batteries back here. These are the battery pack. So these are the Hobby Tiger battery packs. Okay, so I keep a lot of batteries, including the same R lines that Maggie was showing earlier. And so these are all in storage mode right now. And I mean, it's okay if it's a little messy. I'm not that particular about them. But this is not going to stop your battery from lighting your house on fire. Be clear about that.
I think, and here I thought that it was. So tell us.
But it will buy you some time and it will slow things down. Because if like one of these batteries went off, which they're all in storage mode, so they're safe to be around one another. If one of these batteries went off, they're all going to go off. So, but if that's, I mean, typically this particular case, I have this battery right here. This is my big boy, but this is a 28,000 milliamp battery. Okay, this is a monster of a 6S battery. So it's got 6 cells at 28,000 milliamps a pop on. This battery I've had for 5 years, and it's been sitting in storage for 5 years, and it works perfectly good. No problems because I've got it in storage mode. It's just got its leads right here, which Maggie, you were mentioning earlier. You don't like the sparks? There are anti-spark tips. It's what these are, anti-spark tips.
Oh, yeah.
Spark when you plug them in.
So when you say they're in storage, and then here I'm gonna plug this in. See, it sparks right away when I put that drone on. But when you say you've got it in storage, do you like what they say about when you travel with the batteries, and like you get on the airplane, they want you to take those batteries specifically with you. So if they do ignite, if they do start on fire or something like that, then you can control it. You can put it out. But if you've got these drones in storage, let's say you've got them in your back closet, you don't see that they've actually taken, that they've actually engaged and ignited, then you say it's not going to keep your house from not burning down. I mean, what are the precautions and what are the things that you need to do so that your house doesn't burn down?
So so the main thing has to do with storage mode. So as I alluded to in my PowerPoint, is that 4.2 volts is charged, which means you put energy into the cell. You put the electricity in. Storage mode is empty, 3.75 volts per cell. Okay, that means that unless you physically stab and puncture it, which hopefully in traveling you're not doing that, there is some electricity, but again, it's not like an explosion. It's a blowtorch. It's not going to, so I'm talking about like burn your house down, like it goes, you overcharge it, leave it in your car or leave it in front of a window and like the front of your house, and the sun causes it to combust without you attending to it. So all of these batteries that I have back here are all at 3.75 volts. I'm not really worried about them combusting because they would take so much energy that to actually cause them to combust, if a puncture aside, it would take so much energy to naturally make them combust that like my house would be on fire anyways.
And
So
this
like
kind of alludes to what Aman is saying. What if there is a dent in one of the cells? As I practice my drone soccer, the batteries slide out. I did not secure it properly and it hit the ground. Is that battery now considered damaged?
So look at this one. I don't know if y'all can see this very well.
Yeah, we can see it.
Gaffer's tape. I always wrap my drone batteries in gaffer's tape. It's a nice little shield. Okay, it's a little bit more sticky than a lot of the slides, but you'll notice there's some, you can see that. There's some dents in this cell. Dents are okay. We're looking for punctures because the actual structure of the cell is like a bunch of graphene sheets that are put together like a layer cake. And then they're cut and then they're put into, yeah, like you can see right there in Maggie's screen. And they're literally put into a bag and then sealed. And then there's a tab end that comes out. And all those tabbed ends, there's a positive and a negative tab. And those tabbed ends are soldered together and then soldered to the leads. So what we're really looking at is punctures. If it's punctured, it's toast. You got to get rid of it, you know, discharge it if you can. If it's punctured, act like physically you can see that there's actually the cells, super dangerous. You need to put it in one of these bags and take it to Home Depot, or, you know, this isn't exactly like the best advice, but if you're out in the field, like you may want to force pop it in the middle of a parking lot to get it down and then clean up all the scraps. And then once it's discharged, all its electricity.
Whoa, you said force pop. You mean hit it again? What do you mean?
So
by
if you're out in the field, right, and you have a sheared battery, something that's been actively sheared open,
Okay.
that's a huge risk. You want to make sure that thing is in the middle of as much concrete as possible. What you really want to do ideally is get it into one of those bags so you can properly dispose of it, like a battery disposal area. But sometimes they do get force popped, right? So that means like they do get actively combusted. It just really depends. How charged is it? Did you notice that right after you charged it up to 4.2 volts per cell? That's too dangerous to move around. So putting in the middle of a parking lot and just giving it a puncture may be the most safe option because it's not going to electrocute you. It's just going to, like I said, blow torch out. And you can go on YouTube and see what happens when you actually intentionally or unintentionally pop a LiPo battery. So you're prepared for what that looks like. And if you're doing these sporting events, stuff's going to light on fire. You just got to get that in your head. You know, drones light on fire when you push them to these performance extremes often, right? You're going to have ESCs. Those also burn up. They will literally light on fire. You're going to be dealing with that often. So let's just kind of get that in your mindset, especially with drone racing, because what they'll do in drone racing as well is they'll charge these batteries up to like 4.35 volts per cell to get that extra oomph at the beginning of the race. And that's super dangerous.
Yeah, I could see that being an advantage. Well, it's 12 o'clock. And I can't believe it. I knew this workshop was going to go fast, and it did. I will let everyone know in the audience that Evan is so good about safety, and that's really what the purpose of these whole Know Before You Fly Your drones. It's about safety and enjoying whatever you're doing with the drone. So I want to thank you again, Evan. Thank you so much to our guest, Sam Scully, our little co-host in Birmingham. I think that was really insightful to see what the sport is all about, what the World Games are all about, and why, you know, we are super excited about drone soccer and drone racing being a part of the Olympics, recognizing this sport. I want to thank, you know, again, we have AUVSI, the Lone Star that sponsors us, Drone Plus, Fox Fury, Lens Pen, of course, Women in Drones, and Half and Chariot, all part of our sponsors to bring this program together. And as I said in the very beginning, it's our 21st. So I'm really excited. All of these are recorded, so you can go back and share them with friends, or let's say you missed a segment, you can always go back to recording. We usually put, like today's workshop will be on in about a week. They'll actually upload it and there'll be a link. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Please fill out those surveys so that we know we're on the right track, giving you information and events that really do matter, and like to hear some feedback on what you've learned today. So again, thank you so much. I just wanted to say goodbye, and you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.